Now, everybody deals with life stuff, but an artist, a really good artist, will know how to take life stuff and put it into the art. This is JARHUMOR speaking, and I want to talk to you about life stuff, and I want to talk about the second paycheck. I think it's a concept I've mentioned before in these talks, but I have a day job. I have to work at a grocery store. Besides being a cartoonist, the cartoonist aspect in my life currently doesn't pay the bills. So I work at a grocery store. Grocery store is a fascinating place. Your fellow employees are interesting because people are interesting. People are both interesting and awful at the same time, and they can be wonderful. Wide range of just characters. And at a grocery store, we have customers. And the customers are really interesting. And I've dealt with customers, especially over the last couple of weeks. There have been some characters. Now, I live in Florida, and we get a lot of these snowbirds, these people that come from other places. And I assumed they were coming from all over the world because I was hearing this variety of accents and things like that. No, mostly New York, New Jersey. There's just a variety of accents in New York and New Jersey. I'm not used to it. We have our own sort of multiculturalism down in Florida. We got ourselves some culture and some class. There's a few museums and whatnot down here, but no, there's fascinating people, fascinatingly weird people, and beautiful women. I've seen more beautiful women in the last couple weeks at my grocery store than like a sultan or a king has ever seen in his life. It's insane. So. What was I talking about? No, but the life stuff. Today is my day off. I'm currently doing laundry. I am doing laundry while talking to you. I'm taking my load of black clothes out of the wash machine and putting them into the dryer right now. I am one of those cliche artists that wears all black clothing. I want to say it's a long story that started with me. When I was younger, I was in theater, and I worked backstage in theater, and then I was in like film backstage doing like film production stuff and things like that, and you just kind of collect black t-shirts and black pants, black jeans, etc., etc. But something happened recently in front of someone, and I'm so glad this happened because they're someone that often questions, why black? Why do you wear nothing but black? And this happened. I took a pen out of my pocket, and I started to write with it. I think I was writing on my hand or something like that. And there was a little piece of lint in the pen, and I had it fully clicked out in the ready-to-write position, and I just wiped it on my jacket sleeve. Just wiped it off, didn't care if I got ink on my jacket sleeve. And they go, oh, that's why you wear black. And I go, yeah, pretty much. I mean, I work with ink. As a cartoonist that's more analog than digital. I like the feeling of pencils and pens and paper and everything like that, and that's a good reason why. I could never wear just white. It would freak me out. I would feel like I was going to get dirty the second I walked out with them. In fact, I picked up a book at the thrift store. I love collecting children's books, and it's a Pete the Cat book. And I think it's Pete the Cat in his new white shoes, or I love my white shoes. And it's basically about how Pete the Cat realizes very quickly that having white shoes is not a good idea as he starts stepping through comedically. He's like, okay, we're into the story. It's like, oh no, Pete stepped in a large pile of strawberries. What color did it turn his shoes? So it's basically like a story of like various things, and the kids can like, oh, they turned them. One, I would hope there would be at least one kid that says magenta, and they're like, well, it's red. We're gonna go for red. Stop being fancy, little weirdo. That's a future artist right there. So, it's a good book. I like this book. I do have the sneaking suspicion, though, I already own this book, but it was 99 cents, and I thought to myself, if I own it, I'm going to cut it up, and I'm going to make wall art out of some of the illustrations, which, yeah, so there you go, 99 cents. And, all right, let's talk about life stuff. What have I been doing? Besides doing laundry right now, with my black clothes, I fixed a faucet. I fixed a bathroom faucet today, and it was terrible. And it's not what I want to be doing with my day off. I want to be cartooning. I want to be making creative video type stuff. And instead, I'm working on this faucet. I have no real mechanical inclinations. I'm not a plumber. I'm not a mechanic. I don't know anything about my car. I'm currently fixing a noise on my car. It's like one of the belts is making a squeaky, squeaky sound. Now, I replaced the belts. I got brand new belts, but from some experts, where I'm using air quotes right now, experts that I work with, one of the pulleys or something is probably going and it eventually will go. Well, the noise isn't making that much of a big deal to me, except I've just been hitting it with WD-40. So I went outside, hit it with WD-40, came back in, worked on the faucet a little bit. This faucet / sink thing in my home has been a project. I own my own mobile home here in fantastic Florida. I'm Florida trailer trash. And this place is old and everything is broken. Everything is just falling apart. And I know the difference in the times because the faucet that I took out was made of metal and the one I'm putting in is made of plastic. That I just went out to the store, saw that they sold faucets, bought a faucet, and everything in it's plastic except for the screws holding it together. Whereas the old one is metal, and it was some type of cheap metal, and it had just been falling apart. It had been corroding, and it was a project. And there's this weird thing that happens to me when I'm doing a project like this, is one thing slows me down. If you've ever changed a faucet, there are 4 things you have to take off and then put back on. There are 2 little plastic loops, little washer things that hold the faucet tightly to the sink, and then there's the 2 water lines that go up and attach to the little thingamajigs coming down, where the water line attachment pipes, as a professional would call them. And there's only 4 things. So getting the old faucet off was a thing. It had been there for some time. Now, I'm not saying it's from like the 70s, but it's probably from the 90s. I would guess that that I'm putting on what is probably the 3rd faucet to ever be put, bathroom faucet in this trailer. And once again, we're going from metal to plastic. Things are a little different now. The world's a little different. Things are made a little different, And one of those damn plastic washer things would not come off, no matter what. Now, you got to understand, I'm on the ground. I'm on my knees. I'm reaching behind an immovable object, the sink, and I'm trying to, with my arms stretched out. And for you avid listeners, you'll know that I've had some arm trouble lately. The grocery store has beaten me up a little bit, and my right arm, I either had a pinched nerve or carpal tunnel. I don't know which one, but that certainly was a thing that was very painful, and it's much better now, except I have numbness in my index finger. But it keeps getting better. Every once in a while I get the tinglies. Like when your foot falls asleep and your foot starts tingling as the blood flow or whatever medical thing. I'm also not very medically inclined. Whenever that starts coming back, I get the tingles sometime in the finger, and that's encouraging. I keep moving it around, and this has not at all inhibited my cartooning. I'm able to still cartoon like crazy. I've all this week, this is something I should probably mention. All this week, I've gotten up and I've set aside about 30 minutes just to cartoon. It's not always 30 minutes, because there have been days that I have fallen behind on this and I've only get 5 minutes in. But as long as in the morning, because I used to do a lot of my cartooning at night, and that was sporadic. That was not something that was reliable. That was something that every once in a while I'd be like, okay, got a cartoon today. And that's horrible. I used to taunt myself. I said, you're a cartoonist that doesn't even cartoon. When's the last time you sat down and actually drew a cartoon? When's the last time you put pencil to paper? I get mad at myself. And so all this week, I said, that's the one thing I'm going to focus on this week. The one thing I'm going to focus on, I'm going to get up early. I have this new tactic that I have an alarm that goes off, and then a minute later, another alarm goes off. But you know how on your phone you can set an alarm for any type of audio recording that's on your phone, I have a 5-minute loop of a variety of affirmations that I'm trying to get into my head, and some of them are about the cartooning, and some of them are about cleaning and organizing my home, and various other things about my own mind, about having a peaceful. Let me see if I have them written down somewhere. Sorry for the air conditioner noise, but I moved into another room to look at this thing. Yeah, having a positive, peaceful, and focused mind. Oof, could I use a little bit of focus? Anybody who listens to these things will know that I tend to lack focus. But yeah, I'm speaking from the cockles of my heart. I'm not. I don't plan any of this. I don't write anything down. But I had a weird week, and I said, you know what? I want to share this in one of these talks about how the things you encounter in your life can influence art. There are a lot of observations I make at the grocery store of people, and some of them are not the most charming or politically correct, but then I can take them and, I don't want to use the word soften them, but make them a little more consumable. Even that sounds icky. I don't know how to put this. Don't be such. I'm not being such a dickhead about people and like where I'm shaming people for having weird bodies. I will say though, if you're really ugly, please put on more clothes. I feel like I don't go out without a shirt on for a specific reason. I would beg other people to please follow suit. And this is going to end up in like a one of my comics anyways, or something like a cartoon. I can picture one of my characters. I have a character named Laser Sword Jones, who's like a space warrior type guy. He's basically like a Buck Rogers, Captain Kirk type of, like a Luke Skywalker. I think he's even dressed in like a karate robes, but he's a space karate guy with an afro and sideburns and everything like that. And he has a mentor father that's supposed to be like Yoda, who I call Master Yo-Dog. And Master Yo-Dog is this green, weird, alien-looking thing that I half modeled off of. It's like if Yoda and Master Roshi from Dragon Ball Z, you kind of mix those together. He's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. He's an old creepy guy that he loves the ladies. He's always talking about the ladies and everything like that. And I saw this really like weird chick. I'm trying to choose my words carefully. She ugly. UGLY. She ain't got no alibi. She ugly. And she wears way too little clothes. And she's got all these weird tattoos all over her. The young people really like to go all out with really pointless tattoos. But in cursive on her, I actually don't want to mention where it's at, because then they're going to be able to identify this person. Somewhere on her body, she has in cursive, in a very large font. She's got a big canvas to work with, though, to begin with, so that's all right. That's the politest way I can make that joke. I'm actually very proud of myself. To pause for a second and admire my work. Very large font, it says "Love is blind," and my immediate reaction to that was, "Yeah, you wish." It's like, you ain't even you people gonna know you ugly in the dark. And I started doing the Master Yo-Dog voice in my head, and I go, "Oh my goodness!" I'm like, "That's great," and I started write it down. People's weird attitudes, people's weird behavior become character traits. People's impatience, people's entitlement. A lot of things I start I need to work this into characters. To make a character more three-dimensional, you have to look at the flaws of other people, even your own flaws. Once again, my horrible, judgmental sort of, once again, the character of Master Yo-Dog is a heel. He's not good. He's misogynistic, and he's whatever, a bunch of other things along that same line. And it's basically all the darker sides of myself. Because we all have that shadow self. We all have those things that we're not necessarily proud of, and we try not to express. You know what I mean? We live in a society, as I imagine George Costanza screaming. This is a society. We have to get along to a certain degree. I say to a certain degree because there is such thing as being a doormat and being too polite. But this is not a lesson on how to stand up for yourself. This is about putting real life stuff into art. I do remember my own topic, at least. So you want to take things that are even the worst parts of yourself, and you want to put them into characters. All right, no one's perfect. All right, that if we were perfect, we'd be boring. You know, we have to be flawed. We have to be weird, but we have to be at least polite about it. I'm not walking up to this girl at the grocery store and going, "Damn, girl, you need to put some clothes on with your ugly ass." I'm not doing that, but I can make a character in a comic that I hear that voice inside my head that is antisocial and horrible, and that you put that in a character that is reprehensible. That's not a role model. This was the problem I always had with Beavis and Butthead. I've been thinking a lot about Beavis and Butthead lately because I bought some Beavis and Butthead comic books for my birthday. I went to the casino with a buddy of mine, and I ended up winning. I ended up coming home with $1,190. I left with $600. I came home with $1,190. Got an extra $590. And the sad thing is, I won over $2,000. But I gave a lot of it. That's a casino. That's what happens. It's a casino. And playing Deuces Wild. Betting the max the whole time. Sometimes I was playing quarters, so that's $7.50 for what it's a poker machine, so it's like three hands. But every time you go, it's $7.50 gone. If you don't have the winning hand, boom, that's $7.50 gone. I ended up hitting. I was down. Well, I took 600 with me. And I ended up down to my last $165. And I said, well, I might as well switch over to quarters now. I was betting dimes. I said, the only way I'm winning my money back is if I hit something on quarters. And I switch over to quarters, and I hit a royal flush, the best hand that you can get in poker. And I won $1,000 in one hand. Boom. I'm like, all right, I'm back in it. Put the 600 that I brought with me in my pocket. I cashed out. I cashed out the $1,000, put the 600 in my pocket, started putting the rest of it back in the machine, and then I lost some of that, but I ended up winning. I ended up hitting another royal flush later on. Make a long story short, we were talking about Beavis and Butthead. The next day, I'm working on another project with this damn sink, right? And I borrow some of this glue stuff, this thread glue, whatever, plumbing glue crap from a neighbor of mine. And he's like, yeah, sure, I've got that. And he goes in his shed. I'm walking with him to a shed. I'm talking about winning at the casino and everything. And I made the big mistake of telling him how much I won because I didn't know I was going to be haggling with this guy in a few minutes. And we're in his shed, and he's got this box in there that has a bunch of old comic books in it. And I go, what is that? I said, I didn't know you had comic books in here. This is a shed that's like not completely insulated. It's basically like just it being on a porch or something. The elements are getting to these things. It's in a box, and there's a bunch of other like VHS tapes. The first thing I noticed was a bunch of 8-track tapes. There's 8-track tapes and VHS tapes. And I go, are those comic books? I go, is that a Beavis and Butthead comic book? He goes, yeah. He goes, I bought those a while ago from some place. I didn't know what to do with them. He goes, I'm going to try to sell them online or something. I said, oh, okay. And it looks like he's got a box of comic books. I don't know what's in there. But I walk away. I take my glue stuff, and I'm thinking about this. I walk back to his house. I knock on his door. He's like, yeah, what's up? And I go, I'll give you $100 for that box. He goes, come take a look at it. Come take a look. A lot of what he had was crap. It was a lot of superhero, like really modern stuff. There was like a graphic novel in there and things like that. Things I really didn't want. But he had 5 Beavis and Butthead comic books. They were numbers 1 through 5 from 1994. And he says, $50. And I said, I'll give you 60 because he's my neighbor and he's always doing stuff for me. And he also knew I just won a bunch of money at the casino, which is terrible. And I don't know how to haggle. I say 100, he says 50, I say 60. it's terrible. So I gave him $60 and I got these 5 comic books, and they are in mint condition. They never have been taken out of the boards and bags. They were in boards and bags. I forgot to mention that. That was the most fascinating thing to me, because my neighbor is not someone who would put comic books in boards and bags. But these 5 in particular were in boards and bags. Little piece of tape on the back of them. I cracked it open. No, they'd never been touched. They had never been touched since the 90s. Someone put these in these bags and these boards in the 90s. Mint condition. They had I don't know the artist, but all the covers and a lot of the artwork seemed to be done by someone named Rick Parker. I want to look that guy up. They're great. They're fantastic. I want to put them in like a vlog video. I want to show them off on the internet, and I wanted to kind of do one of these talks specifically about Beavis and Butthead. I know it's coming back kind of in popularity, which is strange. I didn't even know there was a new series. But when I was younger, I couldn't stand Beavis and Butthead. And the reason for that was because when it came out, I was in middle school. And there were a lot of kids that I went to middle school, which middle school is like the worst. That's when, like, that preteen, just that 13-year-old, just especially young men, young boys are just awful. They're terrors. And for them to have a role model like Beavis and Butthead was just awful. Like, I was there with the parents going, this is awful. This is a terrible thing. And I just felt like Beavis and Butthead were such horrible characters. I don't think it was years later till I got in my 20s, and around the time they made the movie like Beavis and Butthead Do America, that I found them actually charming. And then I was a huge fan of Daria. I love that show. I've had that on DVD, but I found at the thrift store the first season of Beavis and Butthead, and I gave it a watch. And it still makes me uncomfortable. I turned it off. They were supposed to be giving a dog a bath, and it's just a wide shot of them walking into a laundromat, and I'm like, I'm done. Same reason, like, as an older person now that it was my birthday recently, so I'm now 44 years old. As an older person, I can't even stand cartoon violence against animals at all. I can still tolerate like horror movies against people and stuff like that, but animals, it's just like very sad. Family Guy has had a couple episodes where they've gone way too far with the animal violence, and I feel like Beavis and Butthead went way too far. They even got in a lot of trouble for stuff like that. But I do find it legitimately good art, despite my feelings about it, because it does make me feel something. So you take away the fact that people are dumb and imitate things like this. It should be the other way around, which is why I bring this up. That it's still absolutely art. And I feel like Mike Judge, he's created such amazing stuff like Office Space and Idiocracy and King of the Hill, and that Beavis and Butthead was definitely something that I'm not able to watch sometimes because of the implications of what they're doing, and I begin to project myself back into middle school, and I think about the little assholes that I went to school with and how they were, and it's not great. But it is art, and it is very good art. It's incredible characters. All right, they're not good role models, but they're good characters. I think that's going to be the topic of my my conversation about that. But had a horrible week at work. Horrible customers. Like I said, we're getting a lot of new customers, a lot of new faces. And I find customers are getting more and more impatient. They demand a lot from people. You got to understand, someone working at a grocery store is working for not a whole lot of money. And they're getting paid by the hour. And I I don't want to say there's no motivation to help you, but there's definitely no motivation to tolerate your entitlement. That's an important aspect that I think people need to learn, that the people that work places are human beings, and they're in no way, shape, or form going to put up with your crap. You may think they are, because it's like, oh, it's their job, they could get fired. Yeah, my bosses aren't going to get rid of me. They've got a good thing going. They don't pay me a whole lot of money, and I keep showing up and doing the job, and they keep making a lot more money than me. They're not just going to get rid of me just because you're mad that I can't curse at them or anything like that. You can curse at them, but you will lose your job doing that. I don't ever curse at them. So I've said before in these talks that my whole philosophy is I treat them like they're mentally ill children, and that usually works, except sometimes they get a little out of hand. And I had one lady this week got a little out of hand with me, and there's this threshold that I reach where I go, would you like me to get my manager for you? As soon as I hit that, it's over. It's done. And she could tell too, oh wow, we're done. And she's like, and she walked away from the whole scenario. She goes, I'm not going to do this. And just walked away. And I'm like, well, there you go. There you go. Because I have total confidence that you're being awful and entitled. And I think that's a fascinating and wonderful thing for me to witness. I think it's a very wonderful thing for me to witness entitlement and to know what that looks like and to recognize my own behavior where I feel entitled to things. And to put that into character development. When you understand people's motivation, their fears, their greed, their desires. I think in particular, the thing that I see a lot is people having a one-track mind when it comes to, all right, my entire life is crap. Things are going wrong for me, but all I want to do is go to the grocery store and I want to make this thing that I love, and that's going to make me feel better. Whether it's like chocolate chip cookies or whether it's some type of pasta dish or something like that. And they need specific ingredients. And to inform them we don't have one of those ingredients is to completely destroy their world. I've watched this happen multiple times. I've watched people have meltdowns. And I understand the internal things going on. This was the one thing I was hoping for. This was the one thing that I thought couldn't possibly go wrong in this sea of just constant garbage of what I'm dealing with my, the things going wrong with my car, things going wrong with my relationship, just so much else going on. A loved one is in the hospital. They're dealing with all this stress, and my boss at work is acting this way, or just or one of my family members is being this way and constantly getting in my business or something like that. And it's like all these things are piling up on them, and all they want is just a release valve. And they have this intention, and this is why the Buddha says desire leads to suffering. Desire leads to suffering. If you get too hung up that you're definitely going to make that meal, and I've never done this before, I know the reality. The reality is sometimes they don't have the thing. It's the only reason I came here. I just came here for this one thing. What do you mean you don't have it? What do you usually? I buy it here all the time. I hate to say she, but I feel like in my head it's mostly it's a lot of women. I have seen men completely lose it though. I have, but I feel like it's I don't know. And it's all personality. It's all whether or not you're able to adapt to things. And I think watching human behavior at my job, this second paycheck that I get, is so fascinating. It teaches me a lot about myself, and it teaches me a lot about how to create a character with anxiety, a character with fears, a character that is inappropriate, a character that can be kind. A character that can be kind contrast with a character that is unkind. See, because I also see a lot of kindness at the grocery store. I see a lot of people who don't mind and don't care. And I get to joke with those people when I'm helping them with something. And they're like, oh, that's all right. And I go, really? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. That's not usually the response I get, but I thank you for not having a meltdown. I appreciate it. I joke with the customers all the time, especially the ones that are pretty chill and that are a little more laid back and a little more relaxed. I have some customers that are absolute nightmares, and that are either they're going through some things, or they've just been alive so long that so much of it, and I know that feeling like that. I've become certainly more and more jaded over the years about things. I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't think it's going to work out. It hasn't been my experience, and I've had a lot more of it now that I'm older. That this thing's not going to work out. I was buying a lot of lottery tickets lately, and I know why I'm buying a lot of lottery tickets. It's not because I won money at the casino, or even I know why I took $600 to the casino. That's not how much I usually take. I usually take around only like between $200 or $300. Now, I could use the excuse it was my birthday, but that's not the truth at all, and I know the truth. The truth is, in the last talk that I did, I talked about how my mentor, a YouTuber I really like named Adam the Woo, passed away suddenly. And how do I put this? He was only 51 years old is what I'm trying to say. He wasn't an old man. He wasn't a young man either. Much like me, it's hovering in that in-between place. And it kind of scared the hell out of me. And I know that financially things are okay with me. I'm able to pay my bills. I certainly wouldn't have been taking $600 to the casino if I couldn't afford to lose $600. But at the same time, I don't really have transformative money that can get me out of this mobile home and away from all of the leaky faucets and the various things that I'm breathing in, like the possibility of the mold that happens when you have a leaky anything. I had an air conditioner, a window air conditioner that crapped the bed on me, that was leaking inside, that was also making me sick. And I feel like this, I'm like, I can't die here. I don't want to die here. So I've been buying a lot of lottery tickets. One of my coworkers, I made the joke, I said, well, let me go check these lottery tickets. I want to see if I'm working here anymore or not. You know, it's a standard joke that I make. And she goes, no, you are. She goes, they're not going to be winners. I go, well, thanks a lot. Well, there could be, but I mean, chances are they're not. And they weren't. But I don't like that pessimism. I don't like that one damn bit. But that's someone whose experience is the lottery tickets mostly don't win. And now that I'm a little older, I remember, God, I must have been in my mid-20s when I saw this. I was listening to a podcast. I think it was Chris Hardwick's Nerdist podcast, and he had the creator, and what's his name? Brad Neely. He was the creator of China, Illinois. And Neely was on there, and he had a lottery ticket in his wallet. He said something like, yeah, I'm playing the lotto, I'm hoping I win, or something like that. And in my mind, I'm like, why is someone who I consider to be very lucky, who has a TV show on Adult Swim, why do they want to win the lottery? And then I realized, because probably having a show on Adult Swim is probably a nightmare. Having a production schedule that is very professional like that, and having to do those things is probably a lot harder than when he was just making the Professor Brothers on YouTube for fun. His life is probably now a nightmare, and he is enslaved by his art. I'm projecting, though, by the way. It's like, I don't know this. But I'm like, now that I'm a little older, I realize, like, yeah, like, I think about how hard it is just to do my crap on such a low level of stakes. You know, the stakes are so low for what I record. What I'm saying right now, it's such a low level of, you know, risk versus reward, or whatever I'm talking about. So, you know, yeah, I get it at this point why someone who I consider to be very lucky wished they had won the lottery so they could just walk away from it. And that's terrible. I never want to get there with my art. Once again, I'm projecting. I'm not saying Brad Neely felt that way. But I do know Brad Neely desperately wanted to win millions of dollars. And he had a TV show at the time in which he was probably being paid fairly well. And still that wasn't good enough. There was still something where he still felt like he had a job, like I feel working at that grocery store. That's what I got out of that. Once again, it's been a while since I listened to that particular. Probably have it somewhere on an old hard drive or something. 'Cause I used to collect like those old podcasts. I used to love listening to that podcast. Listening to creative people is a very important thing. That's why I wanted to do these talks. I don't like calling them a podcast because I don't really know what that means. All right, I don't know what certain things mean. You know those things that I think YouTubers and streamers do, that tier list stuff? I was watching one of those, and I guess S tier means the highest thing, but I don't know what S stands for. And I don't know what any of the ranking, like, so when they say, oh, I'm putting this in D tier, I'm like, I don't know what that means. I don't know. So if I'm listening to them and I don't visually have a representation of where D and S are, I don't understand what's going on. That's how isolated I've been from internet culture and things that go on, is that I recently, I watched some things like that and I'm like, I don't understand what this is. I get the idea of a tier list. I know what a tier is. I understand the ranking of things and putting them in categories. I understand the concept. I don't understand what these things mean. And I just went off on a pretty bad tangent there. My affirmations haven't fully kicked in yet, that I've got the focused mind. But my goals have changed, is what I wanted to say about the whole Brad Neely thing. Is that my goals are no longer to have a TV show on Adult Swim or something like that, move out to California, be part of the entertainment industry or anything like that. That was my goal for a little bit. And now I want to start with where the action is. And that seems to be YouTube. And that seems to be certain places on social media where you can get your stuff out there, where you can gather an audience. And then from there, I'd like to create something substantial. But in order to do that, I have to find a way through channels, by channels I mean through pipelines, flows and currents of providing something. There's no such thing as money for nothing, which is why I don't win the lottery. I don't know how I'm good at video poker, but evidently I am. A certain amount of faith, I guess. And that level of optimism is important. That level of optimism towards believing you can accomplish something and finding your audience and finding this pipeline in which that you are rewarded, that there's a reciprocity where you are financially rewarded for putting out something of substance. And that's hilarious when you think of YouTube and you don't think of the word substance. A lot of it's crap. A lot of it's absolute crap, especially even worse is the social media platforms that have like the little short videos, the little 30-second thingamajigs. That's even worse. But to navigate all of this and to take the things from your life, to funnel all of these things that you absorb in the world, the life stuff, the stuff about relationships, the stuff about home life. And home life for me is just me and the cat, but this place keeps trying to kill me. It absolutely, something's always leaking. Some type of mold is always growing. It's terrible. But got to keep your optimism. I'll tell you another story. So I'm thinking in terms of lottery. I'm I'm spending some money on lottery tickets and that. I'm not a big fan of the scratch-offs. But sometimes people throw their scratch-offs in the parking lot where I work. And I'm out there in the parking lot eating lunch one day. This was recently. This was in this past week. And I saw a couple of $3 scratch-off tickets face down on the ground. And I picked them up, and I noticed they hadn't scratched the little barcode off the bottom. That's how you can really check them with a machine to know. And these were fairly complicated lottery tickets, some type of bingo thing where you had to match bingo. I said, the hell with it. I picked up 2 of them. I didn't pick up the third one because it looked like it had been run over by a car multiple times. And I'm like, that thing, you probably can't even read the barcode on that thing. I'm just going to forget it. I go in those 2 lottery tickets. There are 3 tickets on the ground. I picked up 2 of them. Out of one of those, one was a $15 winner. You better believe I went back and got that other ticket that was run over. I say to the girl that's working up at the lottery thing, I say, does that thing look like it's been run over by a car? She goes, yeah, it is. Why? And I go, because it was probably run over by a car. I go, I found it in the parking lot. She's like, shut up. She's like, oh my. She goes, it's a $15 winner. Shut up. Oh my God. And I went out and got the 3rd ticket. It was nothing. But the point I want to make about that story is the person who was scratching off those $3 tickets had the mindset of losing. They didn't think they were a winner. They didn't think that, they're the type of person that, number one, spends $3 on a scratch-off ticket rather than $5 or $10 or $20. There are $20, there are $50, there are $100 scratch-off tickets, which I think is ludicrous, but that's besides the point. And they're also the type of person that litters, which I can't stand. So they're a loser, is what they are. They're someone who litters, who goes cheap, who doesn't bet the max like I do, and who doesn't have optimism. And they threw away a $15 winning ticket. And me, with my optimism, all of a sudden I come along and I pick it up. And I get the $15. I did turn that $15 into one $10 scratch off. The girl at the counter, she picked it out. It was a loser. I'm not doing scratch offs. I think they suck. I could have used that $10 for actual lottery tickets. And then I used the other $5 for a couple of, they call it easy match. You match these numbers, you know if you win instantly. And I won $4. And I think a free ticket on some of those. I don't know. I keep winning free tickets and a little bit of money. I haven't taken any money out in order to play lottery in 2 weeks. I keep winning enough money. I win $11. I win $5. And I'm like, let it ride. And I just keep going in the hopes that there's enough money at some point that comes in that can change my life. And I don't think God is going to do that for me. I think it could be the worst thing that could happen to me. I think it would cause me, I don't want to say to give up, but I think it would slow me down. I think the sense of urgency that I can't keep living this life, that it feels like it's killing me, and I'm unhappy. I think the fact that I'm unhappy is the best thing in the entire world for me right now, because it motivates me to actually get things done. There's a sense of urgency in doing my art. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I don't know if that could turn me into a very callous person that tries to strategize a little too much and jumps on trends rather than being their authentic self. I don't know. We'll see. I'm willing to sell out if someone's buying, but so far nobody's buying. I like what I do. I always said if I was just in it for the money, I'd have become a dentist or something like that. I like being a cartoonist. I like talking to people on the internet. I love to talk. That's why I'm here doing this. And that's the whole thing that I want to say to you, is to have a little more optimism about your own life situation. Look at the horrible things around you and be inspired. Those are pretty much my closing statements. Be inspired by the nightmare in which you find yourself in. I want to thank you so much for listening. You can find me anywhere on the social media at JARHUMOR or jarhumor.com. Good Lord willing and the creek don't rise, I'm going to be adding new videos and cartoons to various social medias, and I'm going to be vlogging this month, hopefully getting some stuff up by the end of the month. I say hopefully because I got to get into my groove. You know, I felt it absolutely a moral imperative to record this talk this week and get it out there. I got to think about it. I feel like I said a lot of things early on in this about ugly chicks that I think I don't know. I don't know if I should post this on the internet, but at the exact same time, there's no such thing as bad publicity. If people are mad at you, if people are mad at you and they leave you negative comments, that's called engagement. All right? So I'm not too worried about it. I feel like I'm trying to get my work to this neat little place where it just skirts on the line of indecency, but at the same time you realize that the person that created this is not a complete and total piece of trash. I hope that's how I come out. I come out. Am I coming off? I'm coming out. Speaking of that, wearing black, it's good for ink. It's terrible for mayonnaise, mustard, and semen. Those are 3 things that definitely show up on my black clothing. And I know that all of that from experience. This is Jar Humor, signing off.